All right, our final presenter for this first day of the senior tutorials for this year is Miss Kennedy Lee. Her tutorial is entitled, Why is Stealing Popular? The Appropriation of Black Culture in America. Please welcome Ms. Lee.
In a YouTube video, actress Amanda Steinberg poses an important question. What would America be like if we loved Black people as much as we love Black culture? Tragically, it has always been part of American culture to steal from and discredit African American people by borrowing their inventions, music, and style. There's a specific term for this, cultural appropriation. Let me paint a picture to help you see through my eyes. Close your eyes. Imagine. You're living in a beautiful, secluded home in the place of your dreams with your family. You just came inside from playing with your siblings, are now eating dinner with your family, and your dad is telling those cheesy, bad jokes. You're in perfect, serene happiness in your home with your family. Then a foreigner comes in and forcibly takes you and your family and puts you in chains and separates you and shaves your heads. Now, shaving your heads may not seem like a big deal, but in this case, it is. Think of your hair as your identity card. It states your tribe, status, age, and in some cases, your marital status. After taking away your identity, they force you onto a ship. You don't know where the boat is taking you. You don't know where anyone around you is from because they shaved everyone's heads. And you watch as the people around you die from some mysterious disease. By luck, you survive the ship ride. Once you arrive at your unknown destination, you are sold and made to work from sunup to sundown. If you refuse to work, you are either whipped or beaten to death. Whipped or beaten to death. As an enslaved person, you are forced to assimilate into the common religion and will go to church on Sundays. After church, you get a chance to do your hair. You would get only one chance to do your hair a week, so you needed something simple that would last all week. Then Monday would arrive again. It was time to work. So you would make and sing songs based on what you had learned at church. The songs eased the pain of labor just a little bit. The enslavers loved your singing so much, they forced you to sing for them and their guests as entertainment, but none of the profit goes to you. Years have passed, and eventually you are released from your bondage. Yet you are still used and mocked for being you and embracing your culture. You aren't liked because for some reason, like your eye color, you are still oppressed. With your newly gifted freedom, you express your experience of oppression through music and style. The same oppressors and enslavers like what you've created, so they take it from you and use it as their own, while still oppressing you. They don't want you to be yourself, they want you to become them, but they don't want to be themselves either. They force you into the everyday culture where you are at the bottom of the pyramid. Now open your eyes. Black people have had many things taken from them, their homes, families, tradition, and lineage. Do you now understand the pain of someone like me? As an audience, what it's like no longer having your holidays or traditions, or maybe even your last name, because as you know, Lee is not an African name. When my ancestors came to America, they could remember how to braid their hair. Still, they cannot internalize where and how they lived before the earlier American colonies enslaved them. I will never get those traditions back. I will never know when my ancestors grew up and sharing their traditions. When my ancestors were finally free from slavery, they developed a new culture that combined the original culture from songs to hair and style, which helped them through hard times and connected them. This is slowly being taken from me and shared through cultural appropriation. So my hair and the hairstyles that I wear may not seem like a big deal, but to me, this is one of the few things they could bring with them on the ships to America, and are one of the few things they could pass down to me. Years have passed, and things like this are still happening. Although people may not paint their faces black and force people to sing for their benefit, they take black hairstyles, styles, and voices. People like Aquafina, J.Y. Park, Kylie Jenner, and the Kardashians used black culture to prop up their careers. Aquafina used blacks in her former rapping career and continues to use it in her acting career in movies such as Ocean's 8 or Crazy Rich Asians. J.Y. Park made a remix of Kendrick Lamar's song containing appropriation of black culture, including non-black K-pop artists wearing afro and dreadlock wigs. Are black people's voices and styles a way for other people to make money? How is this different from when slave owners would use black people as entertainment and make a profit? Or when people would paint their faces black and make a profit? We were and are still not getting any credit for our voices, and now they're still being used. Black people come with an idea, and it is constantly seen in a bad light, or taken. The copy of hair and style are just some of what happens, and it is not helping the black community by ripping them off, leading people to... Kardashians wear dreadlocks and cornrows and do not give credit to black people, leading people to believe it is just a hairstyle while ignoring its history. Meanwhile, people are still being discriminated against when they have the same hairstyle and a darker complexion. For instance, Jed Hawkins, in 2021, a four-year-old who was sent home because of his braids. Or more recently, Dr. Williams in 2022, who stopped attending school because his hair was against school dress code. And they tried to force him to cut it. People take the heritage of African American lightly as something unimportant and something they can share, and maybe even something they came up with. People wear afro and dreadlock wigs, yet they do not understand the weight of that hairstyle and none of the pain or discrimination that comes with wearing them. Making claims that it is just a hairstyle shows your lack of understanding, akin to someone saying they don't see color. These things are part of who I am. Educating yourselves and having schools inform people is the way to get people to understand the problem. Many schools don't teach the origins of drums, most black music, and black artists. And some people even borrow Negro spirituals and write them off as American spirituals, which I have seen and experienced. Black people like Blind Tom, Elizabeth Greenfield, Billie Holiday, William Still, Nat King Cole are ignored and go unnoticed in our music class. People like Thomas A. Carrington, Garrett Morgan, Sarah Bloom, Benjamin Banneker go unnamed in our history class. Where does the credit go for African American people? Where's the credit for African American artists in our history? Aren't African American people part of American history? So why aren't we taught African American history? It is essential to learn from our past, but how do we know if we are not taught about it? African American people made many contributions to American history. Schools should teach African American history in the history class in the music room to answer this problem of cultural appropriation. Giving credit poses many problems for people, like, how do we keep track of all cultural appropriation? The answer is no. We can't keep track of everyone who is cultural appropriating. Still, we can minimize it by seeking understanding and putting ourselves in the shoes of a black person, just as I had you do at the beginning of the speech. Black culture is vital to share and spread across America. However, there's a proper way to share black culture. Some people may say that it's impossible to eliminate cultural appropriation. Yes, people always gravitate towards what they like and may copy or imitate what they see artists or actors do. But just because you have a virus doesn't mean you just take it. Imitation can be seen as flattery, and to a certain extent, it can be. There's a fine line between imitating something because you like it and mockery. The difference may be the intent, but how do you tell someone's intent? People are not mind readers. All people can do is assume. Muhammad Ali once said, if 10,000 snakes were coming down that aisle now, and I had a door that I could shut, and in that 10,000, 1,000 went right. 1,000 rattlesnakes didn't want to bite me. I knew they were good. Should I let all these rattlesnakes come down, hoping that the 1,000 get together and form a shield? Or should I just close the door and stay safe? The thing with culture is that it's personal. You never know whether all the people of that culture are okay with you borrowing it, just as if you were welcomed into someone's home and they offer you food to share in their family celebrations, like Kwanzaa or Hanukkah. That is fine. However, when you go home, you take it to other people and you share it with them without telling them the history behind it and act like you came up with it. There lies the problem. Everyone may not say that there's a problem with that, and that's okay. But is it okay to copy someone's paper? Your excuse was that they let you copy it. So is it okay? The best thing we can do is to educate people so that it doesn't happen and they can understand the significance of that style. It also means educating yourself outside of what people are teaching you. It also means uplifting our African American people and their culture as one, not just the culture. There are examples of people who have educated themselves, such as Florence Pugh, or some who help to educate others, like Pete Rogers, through his artwork, Inappropriate. The question is, am I informed on why they wear that cultural outfit and hairstyle? Do I know where it came from? Yes, it can get complicated to keep track of where everything came from, but this is supposed to be a place accepting of cultures, not mocking or discrediting them. It can lead to more significant problems if we do not address them now, so we need to have those hard conversations for America to be a better place that accepts other cultures and works to understand the citizens. Those conversations would help with discrimination and not force people to assimilate into white American culture. So this can be a melting pot and not a factory. So what would America be like if black people's culture was appreciated instead of appropriating? America would be more open and understanding, because if America can understand black culture, then it can understand other cultures as well. Black culture is embedded in American history and should be treated as such. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. I can tell that you've put a lot of thought into this. Okay, let me see where to begin. So I wanted to ask, with cultural appropriation, big deal. At my university, I wasn't there anymore, but a few years ago, people got in trouble because it was like Cinco de Mayo and they dressed as construction workers. Obvious problem, major problem. What about something a little bit more innocuous, like Black Panther movies have come out? They're really awesome. If I were to, go around just saying Wakanda forever, everyone, how would that fit in? Is it appropriate for me as a white person? Like, how do I appreciate it without appropriating it and paying honor where honor's obviously due without diminishing anything that it's done? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So first, I just have to say you have to be educated on why they do that certain thing. You know how they do like the Wakanda Forever as a sort of symbol for all Wakanda. It's a symbol of pride for them. So I'd have to say that when you start taking it and making it your own, it becomes more of appropriation than appreciation, because you take it, like I said in the speech, you take it to other people and then you act like you came up with it, and it's not the same thing, and it loses its value when you take it to other people.
Right. So it's more about, sharing, hey, this is awesome, look how much is rich and meaningful in this culture. What would you say, you mentioned a couple of pop culture figures, both in K-pop and Aquafina, that when they were approached with this issue of, hey, we think you should have, given credit here, and they either didn't give a significant response or didn't respond at all. What response would have been most meaningful to have heard if you could have crafted their responses?
It would be, hey, I recognize that this comes from Black culture, and I apologize if it made anyone feel uncomfortable. That was not my intent to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I thought this was cool, and I wanted to share with other people, and I didn't mean for it to harm anyone.
Good to know. Yeah, so intention, you mentioned intention, and it's impossible to know, and asking for clarification on that could be really good. I had never thought about the origination, I think that's the word, of certain hymns as being appropriated. I don't think the ones you mentioned, what page is that on? 2 or 3, I think. Wade in the Water, Hotel It on the Mountain, Gospel Trains, from Rosy Chariot. I looked up some other ones. I actually haven't heard very many. Is it inappropriate if it's sung in a worship context? Is it inappropriate to worship with those words?
No, as long as the person who's leading the hymn starts off with saying, this is a Negro or African American spiritual. They recognize that it's not their spiritual, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. one last question that I probably should have asked first. Culture, that's a really big word, and it has to do with language, not just like slang, but like languages and, food and material and laws and religion, all these things. Are you considering the whole big picture of culture? Are you like focusing more on like the material entertainment genres within that?
I'd have to say that those are connected, if that makes sense. For Black culture is connected to those. It's not really pop culture, it's Black culture. That answers your question. It might not answer your question.
Like it's not just about, so culture is just a really big umbrella, and so you're saying all of this is involved.
Yes,
Okay.
I am saying.
Good, thank you.
Hey, so I really liked your passion and your presenting your paper. I could tell the beginning, at least the beginning was memorized.
Yes.
Thank you. I was like, oh, she can do the whole thing. She can do the whole thing. That might have been impossible. That was impressive. Are you aware? Now, it seems like probably the misappropriation of Black culture seems probably like the most obvious like example maybe in the whole world of like misappropriating a culture. Are you aware internationally, maybe even of other issues similar to this? Maybe not like as obvious or blatant, but like Hispanic or Asian, or I know other countries maybe that are more like mixed racially as the America is.
Are you asking if they appropriate Black culture or?
No. So I'm saying like just in general in the world, like it seems like when I hear about misappropriation, it seems like Black culture's misappropriation is like a huge thing in the U.S. Are there other countries either that maybe also do misappropriate Black culture, or maybe there's misappropriation of a different culture just in a different country? I don't know if you researched any other countries.
I have heard about some in the UK, and it happens over there too. It happens all over the world, but my focus was more specifically America.
Sure. And do you think there's like a reason, like why do you think in America, or even in general, like why do you think Black culture is the one that seems to be most like, kind of misused, misappropriated?
So when Black people were freed from slavery, the former slave owners did not want to lose their way of life, so they thought it fit to push Black people towards the bottom of the pyramid. And so now that they're already at the bottom of the pyramid, they take their culture and sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, with screaming kids hit me.
Sort of stripping you of your inventions and your ideas says that, hey, look, they don't contribute anything. They're not really, there's a common conception of Black people as lazy. So if you strip them of all the Black culture and say that they didn't come up with anything, they don't have any inventions, they're not very smart, then that's a way of, if that answers your question.
Next one. Okay, so you talk about some famous people, Kylie Jenner. I think you might give some other examples of people not giving credit to the Black culture that they're using, kind of acting as if it's their own. What would be the best way for people? And I guess kind of two-part question. So, like, how could famous people could best recognize like when they use something from Black culture? Like, how should they go about giving credit back to the Black community for that culture? And then for kind of just like ordinary people, like if someone wanted to braid their hair in a way that was emulating Black culture, like how should they go about giving that respect back?
So for artists, I'd have to say maybe going to African braiders or African American braiders, and maybe when they do their posts, they give them a hashtag or they say where they got their hair done, and that's comparison, I'd have to say educating yourself, so you know when that line has been crossed. Because if you educate yourself, you know when you've gone too far.
Okay. So if, I guess as an example, I can just use myself. I don't think I would ever do this, but if I wanted to braid my hair, you have your hair, it's very beautiful. I don't know if I could ever do that, but if I decided that I wanted my hair to try to look like yours, it would look so silly on me. But if I did, so would it just be more of I would need to educate myself and go to African American braiders to do this. It wouldn't necessarily be something that I would need to go around to other Black people I encounter and be like, don't worry, I understand this is part of your culture, or like apologizing, or I don't need to necessarily say anything to them. It's just if someone complimented me on it, maybe I could say, oh yeah, there's a cool place down the street, et cetera, et cetera.
I'd have to say the last part makes more sense to say, oh, this is where I got it. If you want to learn more, I know more about this. Let me tell you more about this, so then you know too. And then it leads into a chain of where people who inform other people, and everyone will know.
What are your thoughts on, so I have a Facebook friend who is a really big fan of these skirts that she orders from, where is it? I don't think it's Ghana. It might be Ghana. I should know. I'm gonna look that up. But she orders these skirts that are made by these women in a West African country, and they're learning to still support themselves. Is that a good thing to do to support these businesses, or when you wear it, is that a good way? I'm wearing the skirts, somebody compliments me. Oh, hey, I got it at this place. We're supporting the thing, or is that like you're white? Why are you wearing a pattern? Like that sort of thing.
I'd have to say that, the last part where you're telling them where you got the skirt from, if they compliment you on it, and if someone tries to correct you for wearing it, then you can say, what I'm trying to do is support Black businesses, and it could offend people for you to be wearing it, so.
Okay. My next question is, how do you, let's say me, somebody who does not understand a lot about Black culture, obviously I need to keep learning about that. How do I go about learning about that without causing offense in certain ways? Like, what are some good resources? Like, should I make friends with people, or should I Google things? Should I look up videos? Like, how do I go about this in the best way?
I would have to say, the library would offer what you're looking for mostly. I read with the sorry, that was with the sources. It lists a list of books. That would be a good place to start. I know the downtown library offers, it's a huge section of African American culture books. You could learn online, you could ask your friends if they're comfortable with that. I know some people don't like being an advocate for it, and but if their friends are okay with that, then yes.
Do you think that America is moving in the right direction when it comes to recognizing cultural appropriation?
I'd say how they handle it, how some people handle it with attacking people on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I would say that's probably not the best direction to be going in for how to answer cultural appropriation. I think we could definitely do better on recognizing Black culture and Black African American history.
Okay. Thinking about kind of the future, how do you think we could, both of us have young children, how do you think we could kind of help this less and less of a problem for future generations? Like, how do you think we should be teaching our children in a way that this problem would, maybe, I don't know if it would ever go away, but it could get better?
African American history, like I said, on page 10. Oh. I don't know the sort of page, but I'd have to say giving more opportunities for African American history as an option, well, not just an option, making it more of a push for it, so then people can understand why it's a significant thing in America.
And do you think that there's hope that this issue could just kind of, I mean, it seems like, I don't know, about 100 years from now, but do you envision a future? Do you think it's realistic to think that this issue could be fully resolved one day?
Yes, I do think.
You talk a lot in or you mentioned several times in your paper that you never know people's intent. How do I say this? How do we balance trying to appreciate versus appropriate without the intent being known? Because that's hard. That's hard, especially since there's so many people in the world, so many relationships, so many different variables. How do we? Is there like something that we can keep in mind as we go forward? Is like, this is the way to appreciate without appropriate, like frequenting small businesses or Black-owned businesses. Is that more of like an appreciate? If I, wear like a Black Panther t-shirt, is that like what's, without knowing the intention, is there really any hope of reconciliation?
The goal is to have everyone informed. So when everyone starts to learn about African American history, and we know for sure that it's being taught and it's being pushed, so students and younger generations know that this is important and it's significant to learn about, then I believe the problem would most likely be resolved over time.
You did not allude to this in your paper, but something that might be interesting to hear your perspective on. Churches, at least my particular church, whenever I look around, there's only a little bit of diversity. How would you like to see the American church as a whole recognize Black history and start to appreciate without appropriating any traditions or songs or anything? How should the American church be more honoring and inclusive?
Recognizing people who helped with church hymns, recognizing great preachers in the past, great African American preachers in the past.
Do you know if there's any, so I know we talk about misappropriation of Black culture here in America. Is there any tension within the Black community or, I don't know, even in Africa itself? I know that wouldn't necessarily be like racial, but like within countries of misappropriating like different Black culture things between the different African countries, if that makes sense. Like you talk about the Fulani braids and the different things that come from the specific countries within Africa. Would you just kind of group that all together and it's okay, if your ancestors are from Ghana and someone else is from another part of Africa, to use any of the other countries within Africa, that's all right, or is it a bad thing even for within the Black community to use other countries' cultures without?
I'd have to say it depends on which country in Africa you're talking about. I didn't really do research on the
that was. Thank you, Ms. McKinney. All right, those conclude our presentations for this first day. We are about 15 minutes away from the beginning of 7th period. Juniors, you're going to